Hey, this is Steve Stine from guitarzoom. And if you're learning how to play your open chords, but you're struggling with getting all the notes to work, or a certain fingering that isn't working very well for you when you're making these chords, I want to give you some ideas here that might help you a little bit. Now, let's just take a standard A major chord here, which generally is written using your first, second, and third fingers. So you're trying to make this A chord and you're strumming 5 strings, but when you play it, you can't get all the notes to work. Something's going wrong. Okay, I want to give you some ideas and some tips to see if you can fix this a little bit. So the first thing is to make sure that when you're making this chord, you're understanding that you're pressing on 3 strings, and then 2 of the strings that you're playing are actually open, where you're not pressing on them. So the first string and the 5th string are strings that you're not pressing on, but we want to hear them. Then we've got our second, third, and 4th strings, which we are pressing on. So the first thing to be aware of is making sure that your wrist is coming around enough to where you're not accidentally touching this first string. Because if I'm doing this, I'll probably start touching that. So I got to give myself some space there. The second thing is to make sure that your fingers are only touching the strings that they should be on and nothing else. So if my 3rd finger is on the 2nd string, I want to make sure that I'm not touching anything else but that 2nd string. And then the middle finger and so on, okay? The next thing is to make sure you get as close to the fret, this actual physical fret wire, as you can without getting on top of it. Now, the A chord is a little bit difficult because as you put all 3 fingers in there, it's hard to get all of them as close as you can to that fret. This one does a good job, but as you add the other fingers, they get a little bit farther away. So that means you got to add a little more pressure as you play. Okay? So the next thing, though, that I want you to think about is sometimes what you need to do is actually just reassess what fingers you're actually using. Okay, you're going through all of these various techniques, and I talk about all of this stuff in my guitar course about open chords, learning open chords, and tips and tricks to make them easier and faster and better sounding. But sometimes what you'll do is you'll come across this chord and you'll think, no matter what I do, I just can't get this to work. You know, my hands are too big, or my hands are too small, or whatever the case may be. So what I want you to think about is the fact that you can actually use different fingers. Instead of just using 1, 2, and 3 because the book says to, you might try and use fingers 2, 3, and 4, for instance. Now, why would that be beneficial? Because the pinky is a lot smaller, it might fit better in that fret to play. Now, I've had students that have of all sizes and ages and situations, and so we've done all kinds of different things together, and I talk about these sorts of things in this course. But one thing I want you to think about is sometimes you might change your fingers like that. Sometimes you might even use less fingers. So let's say you had really big fingers and you're trying to play this A chord, and no matter what you do, using 3 fingers just doesn't work. You might try and use 2 fingers over those 3 strings. You might actually need to use just 1 finger over those 3 strings. Okay? There are many other options that can make many of these chords so much easier for you if you become aware of the fact that they're out there, right? Because sometimes we're looking at a book or a piece of paper or something, and it's showing us how to play it, but it's not really working for us. So sometimes we have to think about some other alternatives that might work better. And again, I talk about this in the course. But I want you to just be aware of that and see if that's something that might be able to help you a little bit when you're playing an A or a G or a D or a C or whatever it might be, looking for some other alternatives. Okay? So again, always understand that there's a way that will work for you. It's just a matter of trying to find the right way. And I'm going to keep trying to help you with that, trying to figure out what's going to work best for you to make your guitar journey a little bit better and a little more fun, a little bit easier, so you can achieve success a little bit faster. So take care, stay positive, keep practicing, and I'll talk to you soon.